we are the organizers and the speakers, hello. And I would like to share with you a bit about our meetup. I hope you can all see the slides now. So this, okay.
Yeah, it is.
What do you see? Okay, then I'll share again. Fantastic. So, welcome to our last autumn event. Unfortunately, we are approaching quickly winter in Berlin, which is not the most pleasant season, but that's why we have our meetup, so we can enjoy a little bit. So you might be wondering, why do we have a PyBerlin meetup? And so the answer is pretty simple, actually. We love Python, we love sharing ideas. We're based in Berlin, and we welcome everyone who's interested in these topics. And this picture kind of shows our origin story. So the Python was climbing up the TV tower, which is the symbol of Berlin. And our mascot of the city was wondering how it got here. And of course, the answer is Python. What else could be the answer? Who are we? We are right now 5 organizers. Anastasia, who has been with us the longest, Maria, who has been with us just for starting this meetup, and then Shreya, Theo, and myself. And we're really happy to have you here. This is our 7th online event. So we used to have live events, but now, for obvious reasons, we're streaming them online. And please, while you're enjoying this meetup, please be nice to everyone. And please also read our code of conduct. It's linked here. It basically encourages everyone to be mindful of diversity, be mindful of being respectful of other people, and have a friendly and cozy atmosphere so that everybody can enjoy this meetup. And most importantly, it's safe here to ask questions. There's no feigning surprise, no well actuallys in the sense of when you give an answer, being a bit awkward about it, no just, and no subtle isms. Isms, of course, being things like racism, sexism, etc., not even in a subtle way. So please be open and encouraging and respectful. And for today's agenda, we have 2 great speakers. Our first speaker is Meili Triantafyllidi, and her talk is about from idea to 6,000 users in a week. And I'm really excited about this talk. And I'm also really excited about our second speaker, which is Alexander Gaevsky, from Python 2 to 3 migration. So 2 really cool talks, and I'm looking forward to hear what both of them have to share. If you have questions, both speakers are happy to receive questions. You find the links also in the meetup invite and probably also in the comments. Go to this, we use Slido to collect questions, and there's 2 different Slidos, one for each talk, and you need this link and the event code. So the event code is PyBerlin22, and then either talk 1 or 2. And the links you can find on Meetup or probably in the comments to the stream. And finally, we're always looking for speakers. So all these amazing meetups, they really work well if we have people that want to share their knowledge. And that's really the point. We're not really looking for speakers. We're looking for people that have something to share. And all of you have something to share because you're all interesting people. You all have interesting experiences with Python, with tech in general, with life. And we're really eager to hear what you have to share. We have 2 formats. One is a talk of around 30 minutes or a lightning talk, which can be 5 to 10 minutes. So depending on how much you want to share and how comfortable you feel, you can pick either of those formats. And if you're interested, please submit your talk proposal here or just reach out to any of us. And yeah, we're looking forward to have you here. And we also love when you tweet about us. So tag us at PyBerlin Python if you want to tweet about our event. And join the Python community Slack channel at python/berlin.herokuapp.com. And follow us on Twitter, of course. We love to stay in touch with you. And we would like to thank a few people that have helped us. So we have the presentation template that we use is from Slides Carnival. The photographs are from Unsplash. And especially people that helped us with the logo and the story. Elena Volovicheva, Konstantin Shervan, and Christian Barra, who all helped us with creating the beautiful images we have. And now, let's welcome our first speaker, Meili.
Hello, everyone. Let me share my screen. I hope you can now see the presentation and me as well. Great. So my name is Meili Triantafyllidi, just forget last name, nobody can say it. And I will talk to you today about an application we did with a friend, Fotis. It's called Chugrisma. It's a Greek word, I will explain further. And it went from idea to 6,000 users in a week. Few things about me. I am Greek. I live in Berlin already 9 years. And I have been an organizer of PyLadies Berlin for quite a long time. I am a mom of a 6-year-old and happy to work part-time. And in my extra time, I usually try to learn German, which is pretty complicated, but sometimes I do applications like the one I will talk about today. Technically, I studied computer science and I'm doing Python web application more than 10 years in different contexts and different frameworks. So Christmas are coming now, and you know that Christmas is actually the most important holiday in Germany. And for Greece, that is Easter. I'm sorry about the vegetarians in the audience, but the typical thing in Greek Easter, the Sunday of Easter, is to sit together and cook lamb slowly in fire and sit together with family and friends, drink outside usually. And the night before, everybody, almost everybody, even the atheists, go to church. And there is Jesus Christ resurrects and everybody gets the holy light and there are fireworks. It's kind of a big party. And then everybody goes home and it's actually the end of the 40 days fasting. So everybody can enjoy normal food again. So there is a typical soup and red eggs, cracking red eggs, and then other typical food to eat that day. So last year, I was really, really excited and I wanted to have a traditional Easter because my son, that is 6-year-old, now started school. And you know, Orthodox Easter and Catholic do not collide. So it would have been our last year that we would have the opportunity to take vacations when we wanted. So I had planned everything and found a great place, all the family. But, you know, the Orthodox Easter last year was 19th of April and COVID happened. So there was a lockdown. So all my plans went away. One day, I was talking with some friends from the university in a Zoom call that was replacing all our social interactions. And we were talking about how could everything is done online now, and maybe how we could do some Easter customs online. And I had this idea of, look, we could maybe have an app for doing egg tapping, or people call it sometimes a grassing, a cracking. In Greece it's called chougrizo or chougrisma. So that's how it works. So these are hard-boiled red eggs that there are on the table, and everybody picks one. Everybody picks one and then takes the pointy side. One is at the bottom, another is at the top, and then you crack them. And then you turn the other side, and then you crack again. So there is either one winner, one loser, or it's a draw. And if you wonder if it's cracking sometimes both sides, it's actually never happening. And it's funny that I found there is a famous German show, which is called Die Sendung mit der Maus, and it actually explains why. So you can watch it if you're interested. So I had one of these friends is called Fotis, and he was ideal to join me in this project. Fotis is an artist. He's also a designer, graphical designer, UX designer, and kind of hobbyist developer. I talked to him. He was quite hesitant at the beginning, but I was very excited. I was like, hey, come on. It's very straightforward. It's going to be a day of work. We can do it. Come on, I have already thought how the backend would look like. Look, it's going to be like this. So we have a page, a player, the first player comes to the page and they add their name. Then we send the URL to this player and they have to share it with a friend. They share the URL with a friend. Then the player 2, the friend joins. And then we send to both players back the result of the outcome and we show the eggs cracking. I was actually very excited because that was a use case also for WebSockets, because we had to send back the interaction of the result to the player 1 without them asking for it. And it actually was also a use case to use Fast API, which is a framework I have heard many good things of, but I didn't have the opportunity to try it until then. So at this day, we say, okay, Fotis agreed, let's do it. And then we had 7 days until Saturday night of Easter that the egg tapping is happening. Of course, it's also on Sunday and a few days after, but that's it. So we built an application and it looked like this. The logo says egg tapping, chugrisma in Greek. And it invites you here to add your name and start the game. Let me show you how it's played. It's actually in Heroku in the free tier. It's warming up now. And so, come on. Okay, so it says add your name. I'm adding my name here. And here it says send this link to a favorite person. It looks much better in mobile. It has the native share look and feel. So I got this URL and I go to the friend. So my friend is, let's say, PyBerlin. And then I'm on top. PyBerlin is at the bottom. I lost one side. Oh, I lost 2 sides. You see, PyBerlin, your egg is a winner. Good luck. Here is also the link. You can share this win with everyone. And here is my egg, my tab that I see. I'm the loser. Yeah, so that's the application we built. And then let's see a bit how the release day, the actual day of the releasing the application looked like. Around 3 o'clock, we did a beta release to very close friends and got some feedback, fixed some bugs, and added some last touches. Then around the afternoon, we said, okay, it is what it is. Let's consider it released. And then we started doing marketing, just talking to a bit more, a broader circle of friends and telling them, hey, we built this, let's play. And would you like to promote it also to other people? And actually, we didn't expect that after 12, when it's the time that people crack the eggs after going back from church. Of course, there was no church this year. The whole user boomed. So here you can see that actually the Saturday of beta, we had 350 users. And then the Sunday, that is the great day, we reached 5,677 users. And then still on Monday, 1,500 playing on Tuesday, and still few in the week. So you can see actually in more detail the Sunday that already until 2:30 at night, that is after 12, usually where people eat the things and get together, it was already 1,500 users playing. And then on the rest of the Sunday, were like around 500 people playing every hour. So we were actually very excited that the game had so much success, and yeah, it was a nice experience. Let's see a bit now the technical side of the project. The first day, and actually the only day, it was the day that I worked with Fast API. So FastAPI is an async Python framework. And as all async Python frameworks, it can handle concurrency out of the box. While frameworks like Django and Flask need external tools to handle multiple requests, like Gaevsky or something, async frameworks do not. And because of the nature of an async framework, WebSocket is also possible to be natively implemented. And the nice thing with the WebSocket protocol is that it opens a connection and it gives the possibility to the server to contact the client without the client making a request. So that is a typical scenario in gaming that, let's say the user is there and you want to send, okay, look, a monster just appeared without the user having done something. And that was the use case for us when we wanted to show the animation in the end for while player one didn't do anything. Anyway, FastAPI had both of these things. And it was actually fast as running fast. And it was also super fast to code. And that was my experience. And then I went to the page and I saw that this is also one of the reasons it's called the FastAPI. FastAPI is also quite new. It was built in 2018 by Sebastian Ramirez. It's based on some great libraries like Starlet and Pydantic. And actually, Sebastian Ramirez is based in Berlin, and he gave a talk a few months back in this meetup. I hope you watched it. It was really nice. So actually, I ended up loving a FastAPI. It was super simple to use. And what I did was that I just Googled FastAPI WebSocket. And then I got this nice result with a recipe about how to use FastAPI on WebSockets in the documentation of FastAPI. And I kind of followed here the example. I kind of copied. And with few more additions and adjustments, I easily got to the first version of the backend code. Let me show you how complicated it was. So this is the main file. Here I'm building an application, FastAPI application. There is here some configuration, like where are the statics and the templates. This is the dictionary that is holding the whole open game pairs. It's supposed to be something temporary, just to store this in a dictionary, but you know, nothing is more permanent than a temporary hack. And then here is the handler of what happens when the user, the first user comes to the game, player one. Here is what the handling of what happens when user two comes to the game. Here is the interaction in the background with the WebSocket of player one. And here is the interaction with the WebSocket in the background of player two. And actually here, as a first version, I hard-coded the results of what broke. And that was quite big already. Yeah, the egg pairs stayed, but what I added and changed that first did was putting Heroku and fixing these random these results, not to be hard-coded, but be random. So, and I was like, hey, backend ready, almost ready. How much did I know? Then second, third, and fourth day was mostly Fotis time. And I was also working full-time. And he worked on the logos, the icons, the animations. He used Tumult Hype for the animations that they can be then embedded in HTML. Figuring out the gameplay, which we didn't really have a very clear idea. And of course, as he's a hobbyist developer, he used the simplest thing possible, which was JavaScript with jQuery. My part in these days was mostly to support him, as he's not a developer with all the tools he was using, like the IDE, Visual Studio Code, and GitHub, what would be our flow and how to integrate it with Visual Studio Code. And also Jinja, which is the template language that connects HTML with Python, and what are the good practices there and things like this. Then on the day 5, it was the day of integrating backend and frontend. So putting together these things with the WebSocket calls and the Jinja templates and having a first working version, but also adding some user handling, like when a user landed in a game that we don't still have it anymore, or when there was some a WebSocket disconnection or things like this. And in order to help us with these error situations, we added Sentry. That is an application that one can see very nicely errors that show up in the application. And I will show you maybe some interesting commits from that day. For example, adding Sentry was really straightforward. Yeah, we just had to use Sentry SDK, initialize it, and then this is the handler, the fast API handler that says any error, capture it and send it to Sentry. And of course, adding it Sentry SDK in the requirements. Then, yeah, there was this handling for reconnection when the user one would lose connection. Then I will probably show this, the exponential backoff in retry. So what is that? So when the user, the player one would lose connection, we would have to re-establish the WebSocket connection so we could send the outcome in the end. But of course, let's say if somebody goes in a tunnel, we don't want to send all the time trying to reconnect because there is no network at that moment. So there is a typical approach to do this exponential backoff. Start with, let's say, 1 second at the beginning delay if it failed, and then multiply by 2 the delay so you don't occupy a lot of resources in the user's browser. So yeah, let's see, that was for that day. Yes, and now we go to the day 6, which was a pretty loaded day, and I started with buying the domain. It costed 99 cents. It was quite expensive, but of course that was because we used a Greek word like tsugrizo and not like Kubernetes. And if you use a popular word or an English typical word, it could be even hundreds of euro. Then we had to upgrade from Heroku free version to hobby version. That is $7 per month, because in the hobby version we could have HTTPS in a custom domain, which was actually a hard requirement for the sharing button we wanted to implement that feels like native in the mobile apps. Then after setting this up, it was time to really integrate the GoDaddy domain with Heroku and HTTPS all together. And I have to say it was far from straightforward. I still don't understand a lot of things of how domains work, all these CNAME, A records, and somehow how GoDaddy worked was not compatible with how Heroku works that has dynamic IPs. But thankfully I found a Stack Overflow, or I don't remember, a recipe somewhere that showed how to do the trick and make it work. Of course, after this was set up, there was a time to really work on the share button and make it happen. It was a bit a fun learning for both of us together with Fotis, as none of us is like JavaScript skilled. So yeah, that was interesting. And on top of all this, that day, there was also a critical bug to solve. And that bug was the player 2 sometimes would come, and although it was a game that player 1 had just started, the player 2 would get the page of game not found. It was very weird, and it was not happening all the time. So it was like 50% of the times or something, not very consistent. It was weird, and it took me some time to figure out what was going on. Do you remember this nice dictionary, this temporary hack? So when I understood that it was related, actually the fix was very easy. But let me explain what was going on. So when we run a Flask application, we use UVcorn, and this by default uses 2 workers, 2 processes. But when we have our data stored in a dictionary, what was happening is that, let's say, if user 1 was coming in one process, it was creating the game in one dictionary, but then user 2 was hitting the other process that didn't have the data in the dictionary, so it was saying, no, game not valid. So at that moment, the fix was to just pin the workers to 1. So we only had one process running. Yeah. And then it was release day. So on release day, we added Google Analytics. We did some final UI and UX improvements and released the beta, getting feedback. Of course, a lot of debugging and fixing bugs. And we had the best quality engineer, my son, that without being tired, he played the game around 100 times with me, spotting errors that we wouldn't have noticed. It was amazing. And then the next day, it was really nice until we could, I had Google Analytics in the background of my living room, checking how many concurrent users we had and doing other things. But so we reached up to 170 concurrent users at some point. And we had many testimonials with ideas and positive feedback, but most of these are in Greek, so I cannot share something. But now I would like to approach a bit the whole topic from a different point of view, as a startup experience. If we look into more details, how the real days looked like, one can see that there were really many things packed in each day, and that we got a speed and a memento that actually even crawled up to Monday. And we had many improvements in mind, many unfinished ideas, and actually, Fotis did document his working hours. The blue columns that you see are how many times he spent working in the Tsugrizo project. He worked 80 to 90 hours that week. And we had 3 mental breakdowns. The first one was mine, and the other was the other 2 from Fotis. And I was lucky, actually, because in the weekend, I had my partner, Jose. We pair program a lot of things, and I also had my son, so all this kept me much more sane. Thankfully, we had been together with Fotis in a non-violent communication workshop for quite some time, and we could use tools from that workshop to help us recover fast, like feelings check-in or empathy, and that helped a lot to feel better quite fast, although we didn't want to look at the project for quite some time after. So let's see now what we did learn from all this experience. First things first, health should be first, then fun or learning, and then quality, especially for personal projects, for everything, I think. So regarding the process, we actually made a lot of mistakes trying to be fast, but there is a Spanish proverb that says, "Vísteme despacio que tengo prisa." That means dress me up slowly because I'm in a hurry. So especially because you're in a hurry, stick to the process. If we had thought about this before, the process we would like to stick is to always have a to-do list from the very early stage of the project and work in only one thing at a time. Stay focused. Then talk often and reprioritize the list if needed. And of course, not do zero planning like we did, but not overplan, because I have seen also projects going down because there was too much planning and not work. In our case, 10 minutes of planning would have been more than enough. Regarding engineering, we learned that one process can bring you quite far. That was surprising. And you know, they say that if you're not embarrassed by the first version of your product, you've launched too late. So I think we didn't launch late. In general, I think it was a successful project because the scope was small, it was interesting technically, And we stuck as much as possible into MVP, minimum viable product. We could have cut a bit more, I think, but still we cut a lot. It was a nice team. We liked working together. I think it was a fun game to play, pretty simple. And yeah, we loved having the Google Analytics thing that gave us feedback of how people actually played it and how did it work out. Now, what is next? 2021 is coming, and there will be Easter again, and people will be breaking eggs, and maybe even online, hopefully also offline this time. And we have opened here some very interesting issues, like adding Redis for the pub sub scaling, adding persistency, and internationalization. We already know that the Romanian market will be crazy about it because they do break the eggs all the time. And of course, we all have some other things that they are not tasks, like clean up the spaghetti JavaScript because none of us knew a lot of JavaScript, or add testing. And anyway, we will be happy to see any comments. If you want to join the project, it would be nice. Thank you very much. And do you have any questions?
Hello, Meili. Thank you so much for the session. It was very interesting, and we can see in the chat that everyone really liked it, and people were really thanking you for openly sharing your entire experience, right from the initiation of the idea to the actual productionization. So thank you. Great talk. We don't have many questions right now, but we would really just like to thank you. And we don't have the live audience to show how much they enjoyed, but here is a round of applause for you. A virtual applause for a virtual event.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. And to our attendees, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in our stream chat or on our Slido links. And to share a fun fact, you were talking about Fast API, and the creator, Sebastian, he was one of our speakers in the last meetup. And that was also a very interesting event where he was talking about Fast API, how he thought of it. And it's very nice that you also found it useful. But you shared most of the challenges, the future scope of your app. But what do you think that in next year with Easter coming around, although you talked about it, but do you see that this will be again, people will be using it more? Or how was this perceived by your son? Did he like it? What was your thoughts on that?
I'm sure we can do that. People use it more. We didn't really do any marketing. We just told a few friends. And yeah, and I think it can become much more stable and reliable, which would make the experience also better. And why not? The cool thing is that you don't need to run it all year long. So it requires only some work around that time, which I think is good for a personal project that doesn't burn you out. The challenge would be more to not doing in burning out mode.
Nice. So I think that was it. If we have any questions, I'll let you know. But to our attendees, you can reach out to Meili on her Instagram as well. And feel free to tweet about this event on our Twitter and tag us. And we will now take a 10-minute break, and we will be back with the second speaker, Alexander, in 10 minutes. So see you around, and thank you once again, Meili.
Bye.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to our second talk with Alexander Gaevsky, and I'm looking forward to see what he has to share with us.
Hello, everyone. So my talk is about migration from Python 2 to Python 3, and this is the story how me and my colleagues spent 3 months in the last year when we did migration. So let's start. Okay, a little bit about me. I'm a Python developer from 2010. I'm writing Django code from 2011. I'm currently working as a consultant, running my small agency, and I'm located in Ukraine, but really looking forward to see Berlin again. So a little bit about history. So Python 2 was released in 2000. And its end of life was on the January 1, 2020. So why would we want to migrate to Python 3 if our code base works fine? A lot of popular packages they sunset also their old versions which support Python 2, which means if you want to stay up to date, we need to upgrade as well. And also Python 3 has better performance, and there are a bunch of cool features in the Python 3 type annotations, f-strings, async. So, but can we do the switch seamlessly? No, because there are a lot of differences between Python 2 and 3. Dictionary masters changed, standard library was reorganized, unique code dropped, changes were made to relative imports, iterators, and so on and so on. You can see a comprehensive comparison on the link on the slide. So, what tools can we use to do that? There are 2 to 3 library. There is Future, there Modernize, and 6. So we decided to use Fishrise as the best tool for that. Installation is quite easy, and there are 2 steps to migrate: stage 1 and stage 2. What Fishrise is doing? Fishrise replaces particular imports, and it creates an aliases for the built-ins and so on. So it replaces str types and so on and so on. So how shall we proceed? First of all, it's absolutely necessary to cover the code base with the tests, because you need to know that at the end your code works fine on new version or even both. Second of all, you need to process the code base. I already showed you how with the Fishrise, and Fishrise would automatically do the changes. You need to add the Python versions to your test matrix if you have continuous integration, and basically you have two options to how to proceed. You can switch immediately to Python 3 and just process the process your code base and then switch only to Python 3. Or you can support both Python 2 and Python 3 and make sure that tests passes on the Python 3 as well, and then you can drop Python 2 support. At the end, you can remove featureized wrappers and 6 calls as well. So, of course, featureize and other tools, they are great help, but there's a bunch of nuances on that, and I think there are a lot of interesting issues that we wouldn't expect to have until we dived deeply in the migration. So first of all, dependencies. You need to have the same versions or as much similar as possible in both Python. But if you introduce compatibility with both Python 2 and Python 3, versions should be the same. So it's quite a task because, for example, Python 2.7 was removed in some of the requirements, and if you want to bring, but for example, at least Python 3.6, the same version might not be compatible with both Python 3.6 and Python 2.7. So, and also within the changes there are breaking changes, for example, in the pandas and other tools, which also changes the API and makes your code in Python 2 and Python 3 different. So a lot of things changed, and even in the same, even in the types that remain the same, there are a bunch of things that changed. For example, in the Python 3, verbose parameter was moved from the name tab, and there's a list of the things what was moved as well. So yeah, make sure to adapt your code base to that. Standard library was reorganized. So do not rely, for example, on the user dict or something like that. So make sure that you go through your imports and you import user dict and other things that listed in the 6 documentation, that you import them from the 6 moves module. So Z, branch, and other functions, they are not iterable anymore. So that also available in the Python official documentation, a list of the built-in functions that are not iterable anymore, and you need to wrap them with the list. Exceptions, yeah, the syntax in the exception handling, it changed as well. So you can't use the comma between the exception class name and the exception itself. So you need to use S only. So luckily this is supported, the S keyword supported between both versions of Python, so everything should be fine. And dictionary items order changed. So dictionaries became quicker. since even Python 3.5. But yeah, there is a change in the items order. So, for example, if you use pandas, if you export your data frame into the CSV or Excel, and if you rely on the order, it might be a surprise for you that your referent documentation has the different order of rows. So make sure to use order dict everywhere to have predicted behavior. Yes, there is, as you may heard, that float precision and formatting. Float precision changed, and if you also export floats somewhere, if you output them, you would be surprised as well. So in Python 2, representation of the float number is limited to 17 significant figures. And in Python 3, you're not limited. You can use the shortest version when you have only one digital decimal place, and you could set the number of decimal places after comma as you like. So the thing is that if in your calculation you rely on the float precision, or you export somewhere the floats, you need to make sure again. So if you need the same manner, you firstly need to determine the position of the whole part of the number and calculate the number of decimal places. So 16 minus length of the whole part. 16, not 17, because also there is a comma, which we need to exclude from that. So basically, maybe it's not the best solution to use floats, and better to use decimals and so on and so on. But if you use floats, yes, it might be a little bit tricky when you migrate to Python 3, because Python 2 can't output more than 17 significant digits, which means the whole part and then the decimal part. If you have any octal numbers, you need to do manual changes as well, because leading 0 won't work anymore. The new syntax is 0, O, and then number. So basically, there is also comprehensive reading about that. The link is in the slide. So the 0, O number syntax is supported both Python 2 and Python 3. So yeah, please use that instead of the old syntax. Pickle. Pickle works only with the. You can read pickled files only using coding parameter, but there still might be issues with that. So officially, it's not guaranteed by the Python documentation that you could easily load pickled files from in the Python 3, which were exported in the Python 2. So it's better to switch to JSON or another format. Pickle is not cross-version. It's not forward or backwards compatible. So let's move on. Oh, one of the best, the most interesting things. Futurize replaces original built-in string type with its own implementation, with its own type, and it allows to replace Unicode as well. It allows to remove all decode and encode calls and make strings look in the Python 3 manner. But the thing is that this type is only a bridge between two versions, and it's also quite a workaround. So if you have some determination of them, whether it's text or bytes, it wouldn't work because this type is neither text nor bytes. In order to properly determine if you use isInstance call, you need to use 6 times. Also, if you do type conversion, please use 6 because despite Futurize's string type behaves similar to string, it's not the string, and it returns its own instance of the type. So to convert your type into string or text bytes, please use 6 functions. Also, if you have a data frame and you want to convert it, convert your colon or something like that to string, it also wouldn't work because Pandas expects that you would pass the built-in string type, but this type is custom one, so you would have to call the apply function, which would iterate through the colon and apply manually ensure string function over the cell. And one of the last things is the changes in the magic methods. It wouldn't be also picked up by the Futurize. New magic method doesn't accept any parameters. So if you still need to do that, you would need to have the Python-specific condition in your code and pass over the arguments and keyword arguments to the if it's Python 2 and remove them for the Python 3. So I want to thank you, my colleagues, Balazs Turi and other colleagues from the Solence Analytics and the work we've done to migrate the code base to Python 3. So I'm open to questions with Twitter, GitHub, and email. Thank you and happy migration.
And thank you, Alexander. That was a great session, and a huge round of applause for you. I think since all of us use Python, it was very interesting to learn about how you migrated from Python 2 to Python 3. We do have a couple of questions. The first one on Slido. The first one is, how long did this migration take for you?
We initially thought that we would deal in a month, but I think it took us 3 months.
Nice. And how long had the app you migrated been running on Python 2?
Several years, as far as I know, from 2015, I think.
Great. And one last question we have, can you please elaborate on why you chose Futurize over other tools?
Futurize nicely supports compatibility to both Python 2 and Python 3, and also there's a comprehension on this page that I shared the link, so I'll post later in the Twitter your 2 slides, so you can do further reading on that.
Great. So I think that was all the questions, and I thank, on behalf of our team, of our attendees, I thank you for your time, for sharing your experiences and sharing how you migrated from Python 2 to Python 3. So thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting.
My pleasure. So with that, we come to the closing session and the close of our evening today, and I will quickly share my screen. So I hope you all can see my screen. Perfect. All right. Great. So thank you for attending our event today. And thanks for all the attendees, speakers, and the organizers for putting together this event. We thank our speakers today, Meili and Alexander, for sharing their experiences on creating an app and migrating from Python 2 to Python 3, respectively. We have a very interesting next meetup planned for you all on December 21st, Monday, and that would be a Christmas event in which we will have a panel discussion on something very interesting, something related to Python. So mark your calendars and do join in to hear this discussion. And before you go for the holiday season, it would be nice to have our family together, our small Python family. We're also looking for organizers. So if you're interested in being part of the people who organize this and work behind the screens to put together the event, to communicate with the speakers and everything else, please feel free to reach out to us, and we would love to have you on board. We're also looking for speakers and for a special event for December for the panelists as well. So if you're interested, or if you have an idea for a talk you want to give, or something you want to hear about, then please let us know. The link is mentioned on your screen and also the QR code. You can also reach out to us via Meetup messages or Twitter, wherever you feel comfortable. And we look forward to hearing from you. And like I was mentioning, if you like the event or if you have any feedback for us, then please feel free to mention it or tag us when you tweet about us on Twitter. Our handle is PyBerlin Python. Also, please join our Python community on Slack. That is pythonberlinslack.herokuapp.com. Once again, thanks for coming. It was a real pleasure to host this evening and have you all with us. And we come to the close of this evening today. So thank you once again, and we'll see you around.